Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and today I'm here with Abby McKiernan. Hi, Abby.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, Abby is founder of Spark in the Dark, a nonprofit that's helped solve over 100,000 needs across Michigan by connecting people with resources. She also co-founded HelpLink, a platform that empowers businesses to serve their employees and communities through smarter gift or corporate giving. And with over 12 years of experience in marketing and nonprofit leadership, she is passionate about using innovation to drive real social impact. Very cool. So I love that you're in this space, especially coming into a new year. We have so much thought of like, how do we make this year better? All these, I want to do right in the world. I want to do, good. And how do we do that as a company, as a person, as a family? I know over the holidays, it's always a really big priority for me to figure out how I can give back. And also by the end of the year, corporate gift giving, or corporate giving as far as nonprofits go. So is that your busiest time of year when the holidays are kind of around and the end of the year time?
Yeah, it's chaos always.
Yeah,
The
always.
way that Spark in the Dark works is actually a Facebook group. And so it's peer-to-peer resource sharing, which means anybody at any time can ask for help in their time of need. And then the community can step up and help each other. So, maybe that looks like diapers, or it looks like food, or, work boots, fill in the blank. And so we actually just crossed the 100,000 mark this past year. So we're at 106,000 needs, but we saw almost 30,000 posts this last year alone.
Wow.
It gets really crazy. And then of course, holidays ramp up and people feel like, they have to buy gifts. And so then they don't pay something else that's really important because there's so much pressure. I tell you what, November and December, I feel like are really tricky times of the year for nonprofits as we balance basic needs with these kind of ancillary extra social pressures of the holiday season.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. Well, I wish I had known about this group a few weeks ago because, I've always, for the past several years, have supported a certain nonprofit by purchasing some gifts for families in need. And so did it as a company, did it as a person. And we were always kind of like, there was one year we sponsored 7 families, I think, and just kind of helped all the families to have gifts and to gift cards for restaurants and all their needs met for the holidays. Well, this year, and so every year when I purchase gifts, I always kind of have this in my mind, and I purchase gifts that I think will be useful for when we sponsor these families. Well, I reached out to the nonprofit and they're like, "Oh, we don't need anything. We're good to go." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well." And so I tried to go give these gifts to Toys for Tots, and they were already done too. And I'm like, "Well, so I had all these gifts, and so I was like, I wonder if there's anyone who could use them." And so I'm trying to find resources, and I'm trying to find, where do I find these families that need something? And because, it's easy enough just to take them back to the store, but they were purchased for giving, and so I wanted to give. And so anyway, I kind of searched around, and finally I just made a next door post, and I said, "Hey, does anyone know any families that could use a few gifts?" And I was able to locate a couple of them, and that was good, but not good, but I was glad I was able to help. And but yeah, so I wish I had known about it because I think that that's a beautiful resource. And so that's just in Michigan right now, or have you guys branched outside of Michigan?
Yep. So there's 5 kind of hyper local groups in the state of Michigan for Spark in the Dark. And part of the reason we created HelpLink, which is an actual platform and an app, is because Spark kind of struggles to move outside of Michigan. So we took very similar concepts and just made it so that it could be countrywide instead. And any nonprofit can actually post within HelpLink and ask for things, or individuals, right? So maybe you need work boots or you need scrubs.
Sure.
You can post, you get matched with a nonprofit, and then individuals and companies are able to donate to those needs directly.
Wow. What
So
a
there's a
great
lot of really,
concept.
yeah, it's a really cool from a community aspect. We focus on companies who are able to actually take their money and allocate it first automatically towards any employee needs in the system. But
Mhm.
anything above and beyond their employees actually just goes out into the community. So HelpLink's
That's
a good
beautiful.
solution.
Yeah, that's great. So, what made you want to get into this space?
I, like every good entrepreneur, fell into it, right? Uh,
Uh-huh.
entirely on accident. Gosh, so it was 2017, and full disclosure, my whole life was falling apart at the seams. It was
Mm.
what I describe as a train wreck with a dumpster fire on board, headed off,
Oh
and it was
no.
not looking good for me. And I was coming out of this really bad relationship, and I looked around and realized I didn't have a support system. Like I had
Mm.
nobody to help me really when I needed it most. And so I launched Spark in the Dark initially thinking, gosh, I'll help 5 or 6 people that are in similar situations. I'll have a support system again. It's going to be great. Little did I know, 8 years later, it would be, 100,000 needs and 30 some thousand members. But uh,
Wow.
it was pretty crazy to watch it grow. And then about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I started realizing that so many of those needs were, I need to get to work, I need to find work, I need to keep my job. And like, they were such tiny barriers to work. They were a $50 gas card or
Yeah.
a new pair of steel toed boots, whatever. And just the smallest thing, and they didn't show up to work because of it, right? Or somebody
Hmm.
lost a good employee because they were too embarrassed to tell HR. And so that's when I set out to build HelpLink. Actually, was kind of the same, where I was like, this isn't right. Like, if only
Yeah.
you knew the truth about, why your employees aren't showing up. Because it's not that they're lazy, it's not that they don't want to come to work, it's that they're under resourced and overwhelmed, right?
Absolutely. So, I find it so interesting because I feel like when we are sometimes in the darkest places of our lives is when we get the most inspiration. And so just think it's so fascinating that you found this idea when you were struggling yourself. So
Well, very
kudos to
much push
you for
comes to
seeing
shove,
that.
right?
Yeah, yeah. And I do a lot of volunteering and I try to get involved in, different nonprofit groups and activities. And I find that when I'm there, it's not the people who have wealth and that have resources that are there helping. It's the people who don't. It is the people who are struggling themselves who are there helping and volunteering and providing resources. And they're the ones who are already working tons of hours and getting, barely getting by. They're also committing their time and resources to help others.
It's so funny. So in the longer version of how I started Spark, depending on the audience, that is
Uh-huh.
usually a part of the conversation. Is I started the group with 25 people I knew could help, 25 that I knew needed help, if only they could ask for it. And then the other side, if only they knew who needed it. And I mushed
Hmm.
them all into a group of 50, right? Thinking
Yeah.
I everything, because isn't that how it always goes? And
Hmm.
I found out that the 25 who needed help the most were the 25 that were consistently helping the 25 who I thought could help, but they were just too afraid to ask for help. And so
Mm.
it was entirely reversed. And to this day, that still happens every single day. I turn around. Let me go on a mini tangent for you, but
Yeah.
it's a
No,
good
no.
story, I promise.
No, no,
That's
it's okay.
what I'm here for. And so I want to say it was 3 or 4 years ago, a girl reached out on Messenger to me late one night asking how to join Spark in the Dark
Hmm.
because she was devastated to admit that she was cutting up her own sweaters for her 12-month-old daughter because she had outgrown all of her clothes and she couldn't afford to buy new ones. And she
Wow.
was so embarrassed and she didn't know what to do. She lived in a space, kind of out in the country where there weren't a lot of resources and she was desperate for clothes. And so, of course, I'm now in it, right? Because I answered this message at 10 o'clock. I'm like, yep, absolutely. Join. As soon as you ask, I will, clear the post so that it goes public. Let's get you some help, right? And I'm so anxious and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And she doesn't post. And I'm like,
Huh.
all righty. So I wake up in
Mm-hmm.
the morning expecting to see this post from her because they have to get pre-approved. And I didn't see a post from her, but I did see a comment. And it was
Hmm.
her offering clothes to another woman for that needed 9-month clothes. She's like, hey, I have a whole bin of 9-month clothes. Please come get them. And
Wow.
so I pondering this because again, she hasn't asked. They saw she commented and got some 12-month clothes somewhere. But then she messages me, Angela, and I'll try not to cry. I've told this story so many times, you think I can
Yeah.
not cry about it. But she messaged me. She's like, hey, I just want to let you know that for the last year, I have felt entirely useless. I have felt like I can't even provide for my children. What's
Mm-hmm.
wrong with me? I have felt so low about myself. She's like, and then there was a moment on Spark where I saw somebody needed something that I had. And
Wow.
she's like, I didn't know that I had anything of value to offer literally anybody. And it has changed my entire life. I
Wow.
was like, oh, and it's happened multiple times, but that one in particular always gets me just because to think somebody came in and had no value,
Mm-hmm.
right? And didn't understand what they could bring to the table. And something so easy like baby clothes was that
Mm-hmm.
I have value moment is just so cool to me.
Oh, I love that
Oh,
story.
that's
How's she
definitely,
doing now?
she's good. In fact,
Oh,
she's a regular helper in the group now.
oh, that's
We see a lot of people
awesome.
kind of come full circle, which is cool. She just
Yeah,
moved recently and was giving away a bunch of her furniture, actually. So you
good
think
for
of
her.
32,000 members, and I wouldn't remember each one, but I can't remember my
Mhm.
own birthday most days. I can remember most of my members.
Yes, I get that. So I've got a story for you. So I moved to Georgia in 1999. And when I moved here, I got this job, this new job. And this job, I was making $19,000 a year. But it was during the dot-com bubble thing where, they bring you in with this really atrocious salary, but they're like, but you're going to be a millionaire because we're going to, you're getting stock options and you're going to have all this commission, and it was a technology job. So I was like super stoked about how much money we were going to be making. But if I could just deal with the 19,000, I'll be making commissions in no time because I'm a good salesperson. I'll just get out there and, sell everything. Well, then, days turned to weeks, turned to, months. And, I'm like, where are all these commissions? I've done all these sales and, what's going on? And basically the commissions weren't coming in because we hadn't installed the technology in all these places. And long story short, that company ended up being a whole like one of those scam companies where,
Oh,
it was a pump and dump where they brought in all these people, they pumped up the stock price. It was just all of a scam basically, but
oh.
nobody knew it. None of us knew it anyway. The CEO knew it. He should be in jail by now, but I don't know. But yeah, so he knew it. But all of us clueless $19,000 a year, salespeople didn't know it. So there was no commissions coming in because there was no technology to install because the whole idea was he was going to pump up the stock, sell it to some other company who had the technology, and then walk away a billionaire. And, unfortunately, it all collapsed before all that happened. Um, but yeah, so here I am, thinking I was going to be okay. I couldn't afford to go home for Christmas, because I lived in Pennsylvania, moved to Georgia, and so I was in Atlanta, and I'm like, I can't afford to go home and see my family. So here I am, living 5 states away, broke, lonely, feeling sorry for myself. And so I'm like, what is going on? And so anyway, it was just this awful time in my life. And I had broken off an engagement prior to moving to Georgia. So it was just like it was a very lonely holidays, just it was awful. And so felt sorry for myself all the way through Christmas. And then here comes New Year's. And I'm like, okay, I'm done feeling sorry for myself. I am done with all of this pity party. I have to make a change. And so I said, the first thing I'm going to do New Year's Day is I'm going to take the $87 that I have in my bank account and I'm going to give myself some perspective. I'm going to go do something for somebody who can't do anything for me. Right. So, I mean, I felt like this is all the money I had in the world is $87. So I went to McDonald's and I bought as many breakfast meals as I could, and I individually packaged them, and then I went and distributed them downtown to all of the homeless people that I saw. And so, and it was the most turning point moment of my life because I just realized, like, no matter how bad you think you have it, you've got to have perspective. Like, I might be feeling sorry for myself, but people have not had contact with their family in years. They may, they're living on the streets. It's cold. It's awful out there. And, at least I have a roof over my head. And at least I, have family that I can call if I need them, at least, like there's so much that gives you perspective. So, anyway, so that was what I did that year. I then did that for the next 25 years. So 25 years, first day of the year, New Year's Day, I would go and buy as many meals as I could at McDonald's. And I remember a few years ago, I was actually I was downtown and I was with my son and we were buying, our normal meals. And I think, we had gotten up to the point where we knew we could deliver about 50 to 60 meals in a day before they're all cold, right? Like,
Right.
so we're like,
Or they were questionable.
before I'm like, maybe we shouldn't be passing these out anymore. But so you like, even though, we had gotten to a better place and I could probably afford a little bit more, I knew that 50, 60 was kind of the limit of like, what we really wanted to be able, plus we just couldn't fit it in a car. And so, but
Good problem.
there was a guy who had walked up to me at McDonald's as we're packaging these meals and he said, are you passing these out? And this is downtown in a not very nice area. And, he had just walked up. I didn't know if he was homeless. And I was like, yes, are you hungry? Would you like breakfast? And he's like, no, I want to help. And so he hands me $100 bill. I thought
Oh,
he needed food and really he just wanted to contribute. And so he handed me $100 bill and I went and bought more meals. And so yeah, so you just never know. But I did that for 25 years, and then unfortunately, the city of Atlanta passed an ordinance this past year, making it illegal to pass out food to homeless if you're not an organization. So unfortunately, that had to stop because we would just do this. I mean, it's not like I was cooking it in my home, it's
right.
but if they see you, they will fine you, and it's
That
very
is
unfortunate.
crazy. You should
It's very
just set aside the
unfortunate.
money for the
Yeah,
fine. Just
exactly.
prepare ahead of time.
Yes,
If they write you
exactly.
the fine, just hand them the cash. Be like, all right,
Yeah.
we're good. Bye.
Yeah, we're even, right? Okay, so yeah.
Back it to my
But
shirt. You fined me. You can only
hmm
fine me once for one act.
that's right. So
Don't let me do that, Georgia.
yeah. So yeah. So they but unfortunately that's become a problem. So yeah, but we for 25 years, that was something I did every single New Year's and it meant a lot to me that tradition because it's the most grounding, thing that you can do is to serve others when you yourself need something. So anyway, so
Isn't there's an old adage and I can't remember who it's by right now. That's like, if you feel sorry for yourself, go help someone else, right?
yeah, 100%.
My
100%.
my children, so I have this kind of huge gamut of ages of children. So I
Uh-huh.
have a 5-month-old daughter that you saw before we started.
Uh-huh.
And I have an almost 2-year-old and an 11-year-old and an 18-year-old.
Oh,
So I have
wow.
very wide range. It's great because my 18-year-old can help me self-correct my parenting now. He's like, no, don't do that again. That was terrible. That didn't work for me. But one of his things that he's, always telling me is he's like, hey, I'm really thankful that you instilled in me that like every time someone was being unkind to me or sometime like right when somebody was struggling, your response was never, oh, honey, you're so great. They're terrible. He's like, your
Yeah,
response was 100% of the time, you have no clue what they're going home to, right?
that's right.
Have
Hmm.
compassion. Remember to be empathetic because you simply don't know whom the
Hmm.
person you are looking at, right? What happened to them seconds before, days before, right? Their mom could have
Hmm.
died. They could be on their last meal. They could be down to pennies. They could be getting evicted. Who knows, man? And so now, even at 18, he's like, that is probably the biggest, most important lesson I think you ever gave me was like to have empathy and to know that you have no clue what somebody is going through, right?
Yeah. I used to
Um,
tell that to my son when he would get bullied in school. I would always say, like, imagine how mean he's being to you. That means that's how unhappy he is. Like
Right.
that's his measure of unhappiness because when you're unhappy, the only thing you can think to do at that age is make other people unhappy too. And I
Right.
was like, so, you've got to remember they probably go home to parents who are really mean to them or to a home that's very unstable or, to a brother who beats them up all the time. And so just keep perspective, you're only seeing a portion of how unhappy they are when they're treating you badly because happy
Amen to
people
that.
don't treat people badly.
Oh, another good man. You're killing me with quote memories here. Hurt people hurt people.
That's right. Exactly. Hurt people hurt people. That's 100% true.
World's most simple quote. I feel like anyone can understand at any age, and it
Yes.
usually sits us right back down, right? Like, oh yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It sure makes it sting less anyhow.
Yeah, for sure. So talk to me a little bit about what it was like to start your business. So when you started HelpLink, and I know when you started the Facebook group, that's one thing, like, but when it started becoming bigger and you're like, I need an app, I need a website, I need this to be an actual business. Tell me about that process.
Whew. Man, I am thankful that I
Yeah.
did not know what was ahead, or I would have never started. Right?
Oh,
Let's start
so
with
many people say the same thing when we're
yeah,
entrepreneurs. Like, if you knew what it was going to take, there's no way a sane person would just embark on that kind of torture, right?
right. Well, and man, you would think I'd learned my lesson, but I never do.
Uh-huh.
And for me, it's always one of those things where it's been a pull, right? Where it's like, nope, there's only one possible direction I can go, and anything but this direction is a total distraction.
Yeah.
And I quit my highest paying job I've ever had last year. Right? I got this great salary, this great title. I was super pumped. My whole marketing career had led up to this moment. And
Yeah.
I got there and I was like, I just can't. I can't do
Mm,
it. I can only work on HelpLink because I just know it's what is the right thing to do.
yeah.
For every
Mm,
day I'm not working on it, thousands of people are not getting the help that they need. And I just can't live
hmm
with myself knowing that, right? Like I just can't do it. And so I had started it actually a few years ago, I told you, and I went through the process of trying to find an app designer and all the
Yeah.
things, right? And I was talking to investors who are helping me make it look like it was going to make money. And this whole, I learned, I had to read the book called Personal MBA. Very
Oh.
helpful, terribly boring. Uh, and if you're someone that works on passion, a book about being an MBA is just not a book for you.
Yeah.
Or learning about ventures and how investors think. It was just I got so misaligned
Yeah.
that I was like, excuse me for saying, screw it, I quit. I'm
Yeah.
done. And I set HelpLink on a table, like on a shelf for a year and a half because I was so overwhelmed because
Mm,
I was doing it everybody else's way and not
mm,
my way. Right.
hmm
And
hmm
so suddenly everything I was trying to build was totally misaligned with what I wanted to create because at no point was I being true to myself. Right. I was
hmm
listening to what everybody told me I had to do to build my business the right way. Right. And so I quit for a while. And
Yeah.
then my now business partner actually reached out to me on Facebook and was like, hey, I love Spark in the Dark. I'm building an app because I think it could be better, frankly.
Wow.
He's like, but I have some ideas and some questions, and I really want to pick your brain. Like, can we have coffee? Can I buy a coffee? So about 2 hours into our coffee, I was like, I don't think you should build your thing. I think we should build our thing. I have 8 years of experience. You're a software developer, which is going to cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars
Right.
to do. And that was my biggest holdup. Like, can we please be friends?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, a year and a half into it, we have this incredibly designed platform with 8 years of my knowledge to stop all of the issues that come along with giving, frankly. Right? The abuse and the questions and the where's my money going and all those
hmm
things have been handled.
hmm
And I think that was my biggest, like, how do I put this? Finding a business partner who is equally passionate but quite different than me was
hmm
perhaps the best blessing and the
Yeah.
smartest thing I could have done. I didn't have so much ego that I
Yeah.
was unwilling to let somebody else help me because I wanted it to be all mine, right? There's a Shark Tank saying by Mr. Mark Cuban that's like, well, $0 of a big pie doesn't do you much good, right?
Right, exactly.
And so I split my pie in half, and it has been a much better experience this round.
Good.
And building it is fun again.
Good. That's awesome. Well, yeah, building an app, I'm sure, is not easy. And so you really kind of did hit the jackpot, just kind of getting the right business partner.
And I tell you what, he thinks through things like 25 steps ahead of me. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we should do this little thing. And he's like, great. Do you know that it's going to affect these other 25 things? I'm like, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
All because I wanted to change a color. And he's like, yeah. Like, okay, so don't change the color then. No, probably not. Like, all right. But it's a really good blue. Nope.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's good. It's good to have somebody that gives you a checks and balance. Not to say you can't be a solopreneur. My fiance owns an all-weather jacket company. He's a solopreneur, and that has its benefits too. But I'm happy I have a partner to keep me in check.
Oh, good. That's awesome. So I want to pivot a little bit over to the corporate giving. So where do you find the corporate giving is most prevalent in terms of like what category? Is it health? Um, is it youth? Is it like where do you see most corporations wanting to contribute?
In terms of the industry the corporation is in, or gotcha.
No, just where they want to give.
Oh, I
Where,
see. So it's funny, everybody has different kind of goals and obviously industries. I actually spend a lot of time traveling around the country teaching companies how to give, because so often, especially these companies that are fast growth, they've got 100 employees and they're suddenly rapidly manufacturing in particular. They're growing so quick suddenly that they don't always think about giving as something they should be aligning to their company's mission. I joke that you can give to kittens on your own time.
Yeah.
But so often what I see happens is actually it's, the CEO or whoever's in charge of the checkbook is just writing a check to whatever organization asks for money. Or to their kids' softball team, or right?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's cool, but did you ask the 200 employees who come in every day and bust their butt for you what they wanted to donate to? Because you didn't make your money alone. And so it's funny that you ask, because the answer is actually the opposite of what you're looking for, and that is most of them don't have any plan, and they just write a check to whomever is nearest because they don't know what to do because no one's told them how.
Wow.
So that's actually my whole soapbox is like, if you're a bicycle manufacturer, you should probably be donating bicycles to children. Just makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because not selfishly here. I don't want to make philanthropy about bottom dollars or business, but also if there aren't children riding bicycles, you don't have a bicycle factory, right? Because nobody is buying bicycles. So if you're not instilling a love of your product in people, even if they can't afford it, then you're probably maybe need to be rethinking how you do it.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Yeah, great point. Absolutely. Yeah. So where do you see most of the industries coming from that are giving?
Yeah, so that one is kind of varied, but we focus a lot on manufacturing in particular, just because giving is something they've always done, and maybe they haven't done it quite as openly as people realize.
Yeah.
And so I feel like manufacturing is actually one of those spaces that gives a lot more than is talked about. And we have a lot of food-based companies, I feel like. I know it sounds strange, but like Shorts Brewery is super cool. They have a great culture. And so they spend, it's these companies that have culture and they understand how important their communities are. Those are the ones that are usually donating and helping. So those are what we focus on. Not to say there aren't other industries that are, banks, for example, give a lot too, but they have foundations and things that are a little more structured.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. I love
Not to
that.
pigeonhole all of them.
Yeah.
In
That's
fact, that's
fantastic.
HelpLink's kind of whole. So I go around talking about strategic giving, but HelpLink is all about donating to employee and staff needs first and foremost, because you can't make money without your staff. And like,
Mhm.
you might write a check to the Salvation Army every year anyway,
Mhm.
which is great. But why wouldn't you specify that first $50 that your employee is asking for from Salvation Army
Mhm.
to them directly to ensure that your employee is getting that help before just a general,
Yeah,
right? So a
that's a
general
great point.
person.
Hmm. That's really good. So I love that your business kind of ignites that, inspiration in others. Probably because you call it, I like the spark in the dark. I think that that's a really cool name. But who inspires you?
Oh, um, gosh, everything. I
Yeah,
know it sounds so cheesy, but the truth is, don't get me wrong. I love my Gandhi and my Mother Teresa and my
sure.
MLK, right? They're all inspirational, and there are so many people that are giving in big ways. But the people that inspire me most are the people that don't have a lot to give and still find a way to give, right? The
Hmm.
people that are down to $87 in their bank account
Yep,
and then
yep,
pull it out and go buy meals for other people. Those are my people. I'd
yep,
rather sit at a table with them every day than I would any investor I've ever met, right?
yep, yep.
Uh, that's it. The
Yeah.
people inspire me, Angela.
I love it. No, that's so true. I mean, you're in an industry, specifically where, you have a lot of very giving people, and those are the people that inspire me too. I think that that's amazing.
They're the best one.
Yeah, they really are. So I'm going to ask you a question that I ask on every podcast. And so as women, we give away our power all the time, in just different ways. Could be micro ways or macro, and could be something like, giving credit to somebody else. But can you tell me about a time that you gave away your power and then another time where you've stepped into your power?
Oh, those are good ones. I spent basically every moment up until my early 20s giving away all of my power,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was in a male dominated industry and
Hmm.
I was just trying to make a name for myself. And I thought that being kind meant being a pushover, right? And
Yeah.
being kind meant that I couldn't have boundaries and that I couldn't say no and that I couldn't, right? Even not just saying no to, hey, it looks like you might have some time. Can you take on this extra project? But also, hey, get out of my office. And if you hit on me again, I'm firing you, right? Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
not just in business, but in life in general, because
Yeah.
I've been a deeply kind person. If you ask my mother, since the day I was born, I've just always
Oh.
been good to the core, as my son calls it. And
Oh.
what that meant for me, though, in my head for so long was that being good and being kind meant being, not speaking and not having boundaries. And basically every relationship I had up through my early 20s were the moments I gave away all of my power.
Yeah.
I think I stepped into that power when I started Spark and when I realized that I could say no and that I could be
Hmm.
firm and it didn't have to be mean, right? I didn't
Hmm.
have to be aggressive in my no, but I could be firm and it didn't, and that other people didn't perceive it as right as mean like I perceived it. I was like, oh man, I'm saying no to them. They're going to hate me forever.
Yes.
Rarely the
I
case.
yeah, I
Making
I I
people
totally get it.
uncomfortable. Like,
Hmm.
but like I made them uncomfortable. And then guess what? They never did it again. And we were good. Then we found a new
Hmm.
normal. And
Hmm.
getting comfortable in that discomfort was, I think, everything for me,
Yeah.
especially in the tech world and business and investors. And I've gotten, that's it. That's for me was the stepping in my power was building something of my own and then saying, no, I don't have to accept your behavior. Please leave me.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that that's one thing we focus on being polite
Yeah,
And yeah, the politeness can be a problem because, some people equate that as a weakness or as interest, and it's not interest, it's polite. And
just
I was
trying to get
raised to
past the
be polite.
situation.
Yeah.
I
So,
usually tell people, don't mistake my kindness for meekness. They are
yes.
very
S-
different things. Like,
So true.
I'm
So
not
true.
meek.
No, not at all. So what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Funny enough, I have an 18-year-old son. So look,
I know. What advice do
I
you
get
give
to live
him?
this. I'm giving him speeches every day. Let's call him.
Hmm.
What would I have told my 18-year-old self? I think this too shall pass, as cheesy as it sounds. I
Hmm.
had a very turbulent kind of background and upbringing in life. And
Hmm.
had I known at 18 what I would build from those really hard moments that shaped me, maybe they would have been a little less traumatic in the moment, right? That consistent reminder of like, hey, listen, if there's no pressure, nothing good happens. Right? You become mediocre, and I'm not trying to live a mediocre life. I'm trying to build something great for my community and for my kids. And the only way I could have done that was to suffer and to
Yeah.
understand other human beings. So
Hmm.
suck it up and push through.
Yep.
It's the
Character
only advice
building.
my 18-year-old would have heard was like, suck it up and keep going.
Yep. Rub dirt on it and get out of it. Yeah, get out of the
Exactly.
pain. Yep, yep. So I'm a big believer in um character building opportunities. And so when things are happening that are negative or bad or struggle or, something like that, like it's going to happen, but think of it as the character building opportunity that you have, right? Like this is the resilience moment. This is the time where you get to build back. And so like those moments that you have to use everything inside you to get through it and go above it, those are the moments where, I feel like that teaches you more than all of the good stuff combined.
Amen. If I had a
Hmm.
nickel for every time I told my children, well, the only way through it is through it,
Yep.
I would have a lot of nickels. I might
Oh
not
yeah.
even have to start companies. I could just
That's
live on
right.
those.
That's right. That's awesome. So this has been really enjoyable, Abby. I have really enjoyed talking to you. So, one last question. What do you wish more people knew?
Giving doesn't have to be big.
Yeah, that's a
Giving
good one.
doesn't need to be $1,000. It doesn't need to be you bought a Christmas for 4 kids, right? It doesn't, just because it's not grandiose doesn't mean it doesn't mean everything, right? It's a
Hmm.
box of 9-month clothes. It's a
Yeah.
box of, right? And it can change everything. So don't be afraid that you don't have enough to give to start. Just
Mhm.
go buy somebody a coffee.
Yeah, honestly, like just, pay it forward. If you're in line at, coffee shop, buy coffee for the person behind you. It changes their day,
And
you
then watch
know.
how many people after that buy a coffee for the next person. So the best part of
Yeah,
that. Buy the
yeah,
coffee and then watch the chain.
yeah, yeah.
No,
That's
it doesn't.
absolutely,
I like that one. That's my
yeah.
favorite. Doesn't got to
I
be big. Just
It
start.
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. Yesterday I saw a homeless man on the street and I was on my way to work and he didn't have shoes on. And so I just pulled over and I was like, "Sir," and I just handed him some cash and I was like, "Please, it's cold out here. Just go get some socks and shoes." And he was so appreciative and it's just like that's the just enough for socks and shoes. Like I wasn't going to change his life. He wasn't going to be able to, change his position, but he could get some socks and shoes, right? And it's just the little things. It's if you see somebody in need, it takes nothing to really help because I'm not going to miss that money. I'm going to, but it will mean something to him, right? So you
Amen.
gotta, when you see an opportunity, jump in and help because you never know what that's going to mean to the person that you're helping. Might not
And
change
if
your
you see
position or theirs, but it's
an
going to change.
opportunity, and if
So,
you see an opportunity and you don't know how to help, ask, right?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ask.
And treat
That's
them
it.
with
Just
respect.
say, hey, you look like you could use some help. Like,
Yes.
what can I do to make life just a little easier for you?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like, don't be shy.
And they may say something totally different. Hey, I really need to get home. Like I can't afford bus fare right now. It cost
Right.
me $2.50 to get that person home. Right. And that's it. Sometimes that's all it takes. So
True
yeah,
story.
just ask and be respectful and do everything in a kind and generous way. But yes, agreed.
I think you and I are cut from the same cloth, Angela.
I agree. I agree. I think it's important that people realize that there's so many opportunities to serve every single day. And I love that you have made it your mission in life. And I think that that's just so admirable. So thank you for all that you're doing to help others. And thank you for where you started from a place of needing to a place and then turned it into a place of giving. So I just think that that's just exceptional. So thank you for everything that you have done for others. Well, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And Abby, how can people find HelpLink?
Yeah, they can. It's so easy. You just go to helplink.org/give, or if you need help, helplink.org/ask.
Okay,
Either
perfect.
will get you to us. And then if you're a business, just go to the website.
Perfect. And you can also go to prettypowerfulpodcast.com and we will make sure all of Abby's information is on there as well. So thank you everyone for joining me for another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And thank you, Abby, for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Angela.
Absolutely. Hope everyone has an amazing week. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time. And until then, step into your own power.